Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode where we're going to be looking at the pages from the Gospel of Matthew. Now, this where we left it. We were just talking. Mary and Joseph were just talking to the Magi, and then the Magi had a dream, and then they left in a hurry. Okay, so it says when they had gone. So talking about the Magi, and so we've got here Mary, little baby Jesus, and Joseph lying in bed. Now, I actually thought, I imagine that they didn't have sort of like cribs and cots and stuff like what we do now, and so people most likely slept with their children, in the bed and everything. So that's how I've done it. We don't really know exactly where they were, as we were talking about last time, if they're in Nazareth, Bethlehem, whatever, but so the background's just not filled in. But it also, I think it was, it looks good with the black, helps to show that it's night time and everything. Then Joseph has a dream. So an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. Get up, take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child. Kill him. Now here you can see this is essentially then the angel who we believe to be Gabriel, but maybe not. But anyway, the point is he is Gabriel is a cherubim, so that's drawn as a cherubim, and here you can see more clearly the four faces. I've drawn it such that he's kind of coming down to talk to him. The other thing is, as always, you'll notice that the wings actually go out of the panel. The angel's not limited to the panel. And also, again, in the middle, the panel actually is split in half, and the angel is astride both panels. And at the bottom, you can see that Joseph is here having his dream, and here he's disturbed in his dream and everything. So these are two separate panels. It's showing you that the time is passing, but the angel, as I say, is astride both panels. So the implication is that the angel's kind of outside time. It's the same, on both sides. And so, it's not subject to the sort of time element of the comic. You can see then Joseph's dream self talking, hearing the angel. So he's there, asleep in real life at the bottom, but this is up in his dream, and so he's got like a residual self-image, like they talk about in the Matrix. So he's got his clothes on and stuff like that, and how he perceives himself in a dream. You'll notice that the same sort of pink and cyan color scheme is essentially in effect like with the prophetic visions and stuff, because essentially this is like a prophetic dream. In the background you can see stars, and that's because one of the idioms and things that people call angels is stars, and so that they often, I've put the stars in alongside the angels, and because also you have to decide what am I going to put in the background, basically, and this also helps convey the idea that he's in a dream that's nowhere rather than in the room. It's not like he thinks that his body's floating up in his room and the angel's in his room. I didn't want it to be like that. So he's obviously somewhere else. Back to the angel. So you can see the angel has clothes. Again, if you want to know more about that, you can see our blog about how it was designed. The four faces then, the middle one, as you can see, is the one like an ox. The one here, this is the one that's a little bit like an eagle. The idea is that they're not actually, the ox is quite close to be fair, but they're not supposed to be like, it is an eagle. It's supposed to be like it's a man that's a bit like an eagle. And then here's, this is the one that's sort of human, but again it's not very human. It's like a human. And then this one is the one that's like a lion. And so the angel is astride the panels, as we said, but also this head essentially is the one saying get up, and then this head is the one saying this. So it's sort of like, this face anyway, one head, four faces. Just thought that would be a fun way of doing it, that they're talking differently. The each of the angels has like two eyes, but then like an eye in the middle as well, which is on this one sort of like a flame, and on this one it's more like an eye. So yeah, and then they've got their wings. Their wings are covered with eyes. Anyway, so that's the angel. Oh, last thing to say about this is the people. So the way that people are drawn, as always, is like lots of black, hard lines, flat colours, right? But when you get a spiritual being, it's airbrushed, soft. It's over the top of each other, confusing. So you can see his chest, even though you can see his clothes over the top and things like that. It's just to really juxtaposition the two. Then he wakes up, and got the little pop pop things, which comics often use to represent people waking up or coming out of a trance or something. And then it says he got up and took the child and the mother during the night. So obviously it's night time. Decided to use a little silhouette again to imply that it's night time, and also because it's like wrapping up the scene, so it's sort of zooming out, which is just another thing that you do to help with storytelling. And then you get the statement by Matthew, and so I don't feel the Lord had said through the prophet, out of Egypt I call my son. And so you'll notice here that I took away into the background the words where they stayed until the death of Herod, because it's sort of like telling you something that you're about to find out anyway. The Bible often does that, but because of the storytelling element and just reading it, because you've got the pictures and stuff to support it, I don't think you actually need all these recaps and he was there until Herod died, and then in a minute it tells you then Herod died and he went back. So to try and help the story flow, because you've got all the pictures and stuff to aid you, put those verses to the background, but it's still there. Then when Herod realised the Magi had outwitted him, he was furious. So again, here's his second in command bloke giving him the news, and he's angry and sitting on his throne. So he becomes furious. Now you'll notice that here, it's not as noticeable here, but his eyes are all bloodshot. But in the little light in his eye is the colour of the satanic sort of energy, spirit. And here, then, let me just move it up. Here he says, kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity, 2 years old and under. And he's angry, but again, his eyes, I've got them filled with green, just to imply that, the enemy is at work in this sort of trying to eradicate Jesus at his birth, Then the slaughter of the innocents. You can see that the two women are running away with their little babies, and in the background there are the soldiers. The soldiers are drawn in the style that they would have been, as we've seen before, Herod's guards. This is actually obviously earlier than, because this is Jesus when he's born, so it's 30 years earlier than we see them later. But this is Herod's actual guards and the style of armour and stuff that they had. And you can see their chainmail armour. They're wearing orange. This is Herod's symbol, or one of them that appears on a coin that represents Herod. And so I've used it here to imply that they're Herod's men. They're not like Roman soldiers. They look like Roman soldiers, of course, because that's the style, but they're specifically Herod's guys. Let me show you. So here we are on the Pinterest page, and you can see Herod the Great, and you can see the dates and everything on there, and the symbol on the back. So it actually comes up consistently as on his coins. This 2 cornucopia. Cornucopia is like a horn with fruit in it that represents like bounty and like fortune and wealth and things like that, abundance, prosperity, and I'm not really sure what the middle bit is, to be fair, but it doesn't matter for me because I just copy it out and that's it. It's got these little ribbons coming down. So let's go back to my image there, and so you can see this sort of stylized cornucopia, and so those are the guards. I'll show you as well the style of dress. So this is one of the primary sources here. This guy is the original, I think, and then if you look on here, this guy's I think basically a realized version of this guy essentially. But yeah, there you see the round shields, the type of helmets. They've got the spiral on the side, etc. And so that's the style. You'll notice the color scheme of this one is very sort of, it's supposed to be reddish, but it's like pink, so it's like this basically dawn or whatever. It's got this pink sky, the pink over everybody. The actual people are wearing red. And so it gives that end, because red is like in colour theory danger and stuff, but not just that. The guys have actually all got blood on them and everything, so it's not just that they arrived to do the deed, but they've started, and that's why the women are running away. And then again, Matthew says the fulfillment of Jeremiah. Okay. Then this panel, we go back to Jesus. He is in Egypt, and in this image I've drawn him in a specific place. Now, we don't know exactly where Jesus went, but there are legends. However, one of the most likely places is Alexandria, which is what this is a picture of. Alexandria is on the coast of northern Egypt and off to the west a little bit. It's a port, and it was very important city at the time, but not just that. It was very that would not be right. It's not a very Jewish place. Of all places, it's pretty Jewish, because they had a massive Jewish quarter and a Jewish community there. The Jewish people helped to sort of found it, and things like that when Alexander was about, and so there's a big community there. There's a big community in other places as well. Now, what I've done, I haven't drawn Jesus at home exactly, because the point being that I thought, well, he probably went to Alexandria, and he's not at home, so he might be just passing through, maybe. But at the end of the day, you have to draw him somewhere, and this is one of the most likely places. Alexandria, of course, famously has the lighthouse, and this image then, I drew, researched the look of the lighthouse, but I was able to draw on, let me see if I can bring up the reference, draw on Assassin's Creed, because in Assassin's Creed, there you go, you can see my notes as well to the colorist. So this is the angle. So basically in Assassin's Creed you can just walk around, right? It's a 3D environment. So, and they've tried to make it as close as they can to like the real place and stuff. So so this is the viewpoint essentially which we've used, but because this was a photograph of a TV screen, it's come out weird colour, and so this one is more a screen capture from the game. So you can see I've used these colours, this vantage point. So Assassin's Creed was very useful, because there's actually Alexandria comes up twice in Assassin's Creed, in the sort of Alexander period, but also, which is what this is from, is actually from the Roman era. So perfect. And so they got the bay here, sort of a temple with statues on the top, and they're in this sort of amphitheatre playing, and and the children then. So you've got it's a very multicultural place as well. So you've got an Egyptian style child. You've got he's got like a traditional headlock and a hair lock. I can't remember. Anyway, a lock of hair. Then a young sort of African girl. You got Jesus there, Jewish, and then you've got this Roman kid who's sort of very white in comparison to the rest of them, And so it's a really it's a multicultural place, but it's also to kind of just help give an idea of Jesus' childhood. I mean, he probably went there very, very, very long, but he's there a year or two maybe, and it's possible then that he helped him learn the languages. So he probably spoke Greek. He obviously spoke Aramaic. It's possible that he read Hebrew because when he went to the temple, the scribes and stuff were really surprised that he knew so much. And Greek because Greek, as I said, because it's like the language of trade at the time. And then he's in Egypt, so it's possible that he spoke some Egyptian, maybe, but then he was only very young. So I've drawn him here about 2 or 3. So there we go. Then next panel. Here, the angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt. Get up, take the child and his mother, and go to Israel. So you can see at the bottom we've got Joseph asleep. In the background is a prophetic vision again, but what this silhouette is showing you is the Herodian. Is that what it's called? Anyway, let me find it for you. Okay, so the Herodium. This is the real place now. Come on. And so still a lot of it's still there. So it's a weird place. It's a massive like motte that he's made, really, really big, and there's a castle top to it. But the castle part was actually sunk into the hill, and then there's a massive stairway going up and down, and then at the side here there's a little mausoleum. It's actually quite a big mausoleum, but it's little in comparison to the actual hill. So on this Archaeology Illustrated, you can see the mausoleum. And then in the Herod exhibition that was in Egypt, that's a video, but in the video you can see that's what the mausoleum was like. And so, so using other pictures are even better than the ones I just showed you. I've drawn then the mausoleum and the hill of Herodium, and this is a stairway, and then these people are approaching, and you can see that essentially it's a funeral, and you can see there's a body there being carried, people, banners, etc. And actually Herod had this really noteworthy funeral where he forced people to have a massive procession, and they had this big long procession and stuff like that, but people had to go or on pain of death and things like that. So it was good to be able to bring that in then. Here we see so it says so he went back or whatever, so he got up and took the child and his mother and went back to Israel. And then here, so we got Joseph and the donkey and Mary, and then this dude he's asking questions of, and he's being told about this. So when he heard that Archelaus was reigning in Judea in the place of his father, he was afraid to go there, so he didn't want to go back to Bethlehem. Having been warned in a dream, he withdrew, and then I've used the narration as the angel's speech to the district of Galilee. And here I've only used one of the angel's sort of faces, a lion-like face, that's speaking to him in his dream and telling him to go to Galilee. Galilee and Nazareth, where they end up, is where Mary's from. So it's where Mary's family live. And here we've got a picture of Nazareth, and in the Gospel of Mark, this is where I originally drew this image, we've got the apostles with Jesus going there, or disciples, or whatever you want to call them, and they're standing in this place. So again, it's the idea that I wanted to use the same image because, well, aside from not having to draw it again, it very easily makes you think, oh yeah, here, the same place, by using the same picture, same angle. Because if I change the angle, you might think, oh, it's not the same place, because it might not be drawn sufficiently similar to make you think it's exactly the same place. So here you are, Mary and Joseph returning to Nazareth, and to show visually that it's where Mary's from, but without the text, we've got Mary then going home, and this is her father who we met in the previous panels, and then Joseph, and then baby Jesus, and this is like her sister, because we believe from the text that she had sisters but no brothers, and then so it's fulfilled what the prophet said. Now let me show you where this is the parallel. Okay, so this is the page in the Gospel of Mark, and it will come up again, I think, in Matthew, but here is when, so this is what I was talking about. So Jesus took the disciples to Nazareth. He then saw his family, and then they reject him and say, oh, isn't this Mary's son, and all that. But here, this image then, I've redone, but with Mary returning home to her father. So it's just, again, bit of history repeating. So then it moves on to a blank page, because there's a big time hop. That's essentially in Matthew's Gospel concludes the nativity, the narrative of Jesus's childhood. It then goes on and he's an adult. So it's probably the last page we go to. John the Baptist. If you've read the Gospel of Mark, you'll recognise the picture. We're going into the territory where it has been covered before, but it's presented slightly differently. So it says, in the days of John the Baptist came preaching in the desert, and he said, repent, kingdom is near, and then it says, as it was spoken through the prophet Isaiah, a voice of one calling in the wilderness. And then I've got him saying the narration again, which again in Mark was the same. Prepare the way for the Lord, make his path straight. It tells you about John's clothing, which we can see. And in the picture, like I've covered this one, like I say before, but we've got John with his leather belt, camel's hair, clothes. Then you've got the Judean people, and then on this side you've got two Pharisees, and they pop up later as the ones from Jerusalem who go and challenge Jesus. And then you've got a Sadducee, because we learn, is it in this one? In one of them that, here, Pharisees and Sadducees were there. Here's a sort of Roman-y guy. Here's a guard bloke. I think because one of them mentions that they're soldiers or something. I can't remember now. And then more generic people. This guy, who then turns out to be relevant later on, because he is he's Matthias, basically, the disciple. In Acts, when they choose Matthias to replace Judas, one of the criteria is that he has to have been there from the beginning, from the baptizing with John the Baptist. So he's there in the image with John the Baptist, and then later he comes and he'll in Acts or whatever, he'll pop up as the disciple. He also pops up at the end of the Gospel when Jesus appears to the people on the road to Emmaus, and I've cast him ambiguously as one of those guys on the road to Emmaus. Then John the Baptist. Now this panel I drew, again, this is where we're going to have to look at parallel. So here's the parallel one. And I drew it because in Mark it doesn't say about the fact that he's shouting at them and stuff. It just so it says all the people came and he baptized them, blah blah. And I've drawn him shouting, but you can't hear what he's saying. Here, however, same picture basically. he's saying, although there are differences, I remember I changed him slightly, so he's not in exactly the same position, because he's going to say those things in a minute. He says, "You brood of vipers, who warned you to flee from the coming wrath?" And then he's baptizing, and it says, "I tell you," so this is where he's in this position, essentially. He's talking, doing this bit. "I tell you that out of these stones, God can raise up children for Abraham." Then you can see the stones in the background. And he's baptizing, as it says. You can see the Jordan Valley in the background and stuff like that. The people, again, you can see these people, and then they go back. Sometimes it's annoying because you draw stuff and then it actually ends up underneath the panels. So I drew all those ones, but a lot of the time they're under the thing. But anyway, so that probably pretty much concludes what we're going to cover today. It shows you, though, that the point being, it shows you the parallel between the Gospels as they're presented, and him speaking and saying the words that he says to them. Now, next time we'll be looking more at John the Baptist and then the temptation of Jesus. I hope you've enjoyed this one. If you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. And if you're watching on Patreon, thanks for being a patron, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.